to Doubles and Trebles. Thanks for joining us for our latest video, which is an anti-post pointers update. Been a little while. I'm joined by Adam Smido Smith and Matt Pieman Hill. And as you could probably guess from the title, if you are joining us live, we're here to just give you a little update on the anti-post market for the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, which is 6 weeks away now, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, we did look at this race all the way back in June, start of June the 8th, I think it was, just after Derby and Oaks weekend. And, you know, a lot of the names, from what I can see, are still the same from when we last spoke about this race, but there has been a lot of movement in the prices, some strengthening in the market, some going the other way, and a couple of dropouts as well. So, it seemed like a good time 6 weeks away for us to just sit down and go through the market principles one by one and just give the updated thoughts to you. And we'd love to hear what you think about the race as well. So if you are watching live, do get in the chat box and let us know what you think, where your money's currently leaning towards, what you think the value could be at this stage. And if you agree or disagree with any of the supposed insight that we offer on this race, then do let us know. And if you're watching retrospectively, always good to hear from you in the comments as well. Do drop us a like and do subscribe if you don't already to Doubles and Trebles. We've got plenty of content coming your way over the coming weeks and months. But right, let's dive straight in then, Adam. I think, and where else to start but with Snowfall, who is at the top of the market, 9-4 general best price now. The emphatic winner of the Oaks, since won the Irish since we spoke to that by 8 lengths, and the Yorkshire Oaks as well by 4 lengths. So she's yet to face her male counterparts, but she very much justifies her favouritism at the top of the market, I think. Talk to us about Snowfall.
Well, I'm not sure she does justify being a 5-2 favourite pie man. I just think that, you know, she's done. It's one of those difficult ones because we don't know. We're yet to realise or know how good she is. I mean, and that sounds daft given that the horse has won 3 Group 1s in the last 3 starts, but by an aggregate of 28.5 lengths. You know, it is difficult to pour cold water on that form. But you know, she just reminds me a little bit of Love. From last year, who was in a similar position in the market, certainly not 5-2 at this stage, but I think Love was pretty much favourite. You know, Love's come out this year and not really done too much in terms of, you know, she's faced horses of the opposite sex for the first time this year, winning on first time out in the Prince of Wales Stakes at Ascot, but then being found out pretty much in the next 2 starts. And not that she'd potentially gone backwards, but yeah, it just is a different game when you're out there taking on the males. Snowfall only took on her older female counterparts for the first time at York last week, doing so in decisive fashion. Don't get me wrong, another 4 lengths winner. She was odds on, but what is the best horse that Snowfall has beat in her career? The horse in second, I mean, the Epsom Oaks form is nothing to shout about at all. The second that day was 50-1. Santa Barbara was the favourite that's been basically turned into an American horse since. I think Saver Forest was 4th that day at Epsom and has won something like a listed race at Haydock, but it certainly doesn't scream arc winning form. In terms of that's the English Oaks. The Irish Oaks was like an Aidan O'Brien benefactor race. I think he had 4 of the 8 runners, including the first 3. Including the first, second, and fourth. Donica had the 3rd in the similar colours. So you know that she's wazzed in there by 8.5 lengths. I mean, Divinely, who was second in that race, is rated 106. That is an arc form. And Alba Flora, although carrying more weight than Snowfall due to the weight for age at York last week, was second. She's only rated 110. We're going to come on to the horse, the second favourite in a minute, Pie Man. But just remember that in your head. The best horse that Snowfall has beat so far this year is rated 110. So just bear with that one. But she's 5-2 favourite. She's ground versatile, Snowfall, which is fair enough. She's clearly proven over the trip, and she's clearly trained by the master. But certainly wouldn't be a bet for me at 5-2 at this stage, Pimer.
Yeah, 5-2. Well, 9-4 now. Generally was a bit of 5-2 around earlier in the week, but she continues to shorten. And some interesting holes picked in the favourite there. And I guess it is a case of we just simply don't know how good Snowfall is at this stage. But difficult to take too many chinks against her, albeit the opposition, as you quite rightly point out. We then come in the market to Adayar at 9-2, in from 10-1 from when we last spoke about this race. And obviously the Derby winner was put in at 10-1 for the Arc after Epsom, but has since cemented himself even further up the market for this race with a dominant win against his elders in the King George at Ascot. So, I mean, where do we see Adayar in terms of 92? Do you think that's about right?
Adayar is the bet. Adayar is the bet as we stand now, Pie Man, on the 24th of August. Yeah, I mean, if you could, like I say, remember in that 110 from Alblafora that Snowfall beat last time, the ratings last time of the horses Adayar beat in the King George, which is an open age, open sex contest. He beat Mishrif by a quite a decisive 1 3/4 lengths. Mishrif was given a rating of 102 for that performance. Love was third, was given also a rating of 122 for her performance. That is well in excess of the horses that Snowfall has been beating. Mishrif, you could say that the mile and off at Ascot maybe pushes Mishrif's stamina a bit too much, but he went and well and truly backed up in the Juddmonte International last week, Pie Man, at York, where Mishrif won that by over 6 lengths, I think. So, you know, the form has very, very much been backed up there. Yes, I have questions. Love's form this year, but I think Love actually pretty much ran to form in the King George, although she was only third, beaten 3.5 lengths. On RPRs, that's not far. That's not too far away from. Well, she's actually given the same RPR at 120 as when she won the Group 1 at Royal Ascot. So I think Love actually ran to form. Mishrif ran to form as well, given the trip, and Adayar was just dominant, an out-and-out stayer at this trip, stays really, really well at this trip. And, you know, he's gone on from winning the Epsom Derby, where he was an outsider, and it was a shock result, don't get me wrong. He was possibly the third choice Godolphin horse on the day. But he, as I said on the last video, Pie Man, the Derby winner by 4.5 lengths is clearly going to be an ARC contender. He's then backed it up again since that video by winning the King George in decisive fashion. The ARC has been the plan and still is the plan for some time. And even if you look at since the Derby and the King George, and even if you look at the form, third that day at Epsom was Hurricane Lane, who was my pick that day. Lost one of his shoes in the process. Hurricane Lane since the Derby has won 2 Group 1, so that's backing that up. And there's some other decent bits of form in behind as well there. Potentially Mojo Star's a leading contender for the St. Ledger, which, again, takes place before the ARC Adayar's form could be boosted. Adayar looks like he's going to go to ARC Trials Day, which is on the 12th of September, and he will run in a race called the Prix Foy. He'll likely be odds on for that, and he'll likely win it over course and distance. So good practice for the ARC. But yeah, 92 Pie Man. I think now is the time to back Adayar because, Snowfall, as is the habit when these horses win a race, they get caught. And I think it might be an overreaction on Snowfall, and Adayar has got better form than Snowfall at this point, if you ask me.
There we have it then. Adayar, the bet for Smido at the current prices of 9-2. The chat has now taken a light with Andy Humphrey, Brendan Smith, Lee Jones, all tuning in. Great to have you all in live, fellas. Just running through the ARC market, a little bit of an update from our last look, which was all the way back in June. Been plenty of change since then. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the race in the chat box. Do let us know what you're thinking for the big race, which is only 6 weeks away now. Andy Humphrey mentions on Aidan O'Brien, AOB hasn't even had a placed horse since he had the 1-2-3 in 2016 at Shanty. So quite a startling stat, really, when you consider.
Well, Pie Man, he's had plenty of success in in French Group 1s this year. He's won the French Oaks. He's won the French Derby. He's won the French 2,000 guineas. He's been mopping up Group 1s, really, Pie Man, in France for fun in 2021. So Hump can talk about the 2016 renewal at Chantilly, but I mean, I think there's only been one French winner in the last 5, 4, 6 years of their feature race. Of the whole season, the ARC. So I don't think it's really from a position of power that the French can enter this conversation.
A staunch defence there. But I enjoyed the stat drop. Nonetheless, please do keep them coming in the chat, and do feel free to hold Adam to account on his opinions. Always enjoy a little bit of back and forth. But we'll move it on now. We've discussed Snowfall, we've discussed Adayar, and next up is Tanawa in the market at 6-1 from 10-1. I believe this is a horse that you mentioned in our last video, Adam. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the quote was the most confident anti-post selection so far on doubles and trebles. That was at 10-1. Now the weeks passed since then, where Tanawa wasn't running and was delaying her start to the season quite deliberately, and she returned on August the 5th, Pie Man, in a Group 3, a little piddly Group 3 at Leopardstown against horses, whereby, and I know I've spoke about the ratings of horses that Snowfallers beat. Well, these would be even rated even less. But it was her first run since last November, so she was entitled to a bit of a penalty kick. But 6.5 length winner, showed her fitness, showed her ability still remains. And as I said on the first video, Tanawa is still only in training as a racehorse for one race and one race only, and that is the Arc de Triomphe. We're going to learn a lot more about Tanawa between now and the Arc, because she is entered and would be without question one of the leading contenders in the Irish Champion Stakes, which is due to take place on Saturday, September the 11th. I'll be lucky enough to be there, and it could be a great matchup between Tanawa and the recovering from injury St. Mark's Basilica. So yeah, Tanawa is, I am on at 10-1. I'm very happy with how that stands at the moment. She's going to have to carry much more weight than her younger rivals that we've mentioned, Snowfall and Adayar. But that's part of the system. And if the weight for age scale meant that every 3-year-old ran every open age race, it would not exist. So it's there for a reason, and it's long established. But yeah, Tanawa, very, very exciting prospect.
I don't want to divulge too much off the Arc, but I mean, while you've mentioned it, you've mentioned the Irish champion. Would you think Tanawa was a bet there at 11-4 versus St Mark's 5-2?
I've got a bit of a slightly controversial opinion. St Mark's Basilica is injured, and I'm not sure he'll run. I'm not sure he'll run in the. I play a lot of Aidan O'Brien bingo, Pie Man, as you and the viewers will know. I'm not sure he will run. So if you want to be an anti-post thief, the 11-4 will look absolutely massive if St Mark's Basilica don't run. But the short answer is no. I'd be happy to turn up on the day, and it would be a very, very good matchup.
Well, that's Tanawa then, and I'm getting the impression that Lee Jones is also keen on Tanawa from one of Andy Humphrey's comments in the chat. So do feel free to elaborate on your opinions, guys, and on what wins this race. And we are getting more into the realms of the each way value, so I would love to hear where you think the slightly bigger price interests are. We'll start with Hurricane Lane, who was a whopping 25-1 for this race the last time that we spoke. The third in the Derby, of course, where I believe he lost a shoe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, quite a bit of a bridge to gap between him and Adayar, an 8-length gap between the pair. But, the Group 1s that he's ran in since has shown plenty of quality. I mean, where do you see Hurricane Lane? Currently a best price of 8-1.
Yeah, the markets suggest that Hurricane Lane is more of a St. Ledger prospect. I personally would run Adayar in the St. Ledger, absolutely. But that's not the conventional route to go, given that that's over a mile and 6, and then dropping back down to a mile and 4. So he's going to go the more sensible Arc route by going to the pre-4, as mentioned. But Hurricane Lane appears, but not guaranteed or not promised by Connection. He appears that he is the St. Ledger horse, and he's 10-11 to win that. Now, there's absolutely no reason why Hurricane Lane can't run in the St. Ledger, possibly win the St. Ledger, and still go to the Arc. You've got to be able to stay strongly to win an Arc that's usually one of the faster paced mile and half races in the calendar. Like I say, Prime Man, since being third in the Derby, he's gone on to win 2 Group 1s. The second of which another French Group 1 this season, won by the UK and Irish Raiders. They actually had the first 4 on the day, Pie Man, in the Grand Prix de Paris, a Group 1, again, where the French could only get 8.5 lengths away from winning that race. So another poor indictment for the French racing yet again. But Hurricane Lane on that occasion beat Wordsworth, who is a bit of a boat and hasn't pulled up any trees. But Alan Kerr was back in third, and he's still yet to show his best, I believe, Alan Kerr. So, yeah, Hurricane Lane, definitely a prospect if he is going to run. But I think that the 8-1 price is factored into the fact that he might not be running Pie Man. But on ratings, he's only £4 behind the likes of Adayar on RPR. So he's going to need to improve to get close to Snowfall and Adayar, but certainly a contender if turning up. Of the 4 mentioned so far, Hurricane Lane is probably the most unlikely of those 4 to be taking part in the Arc.
There you go then, Hurricane Lane. Nicely summarised, I would say there. Yeah, interesting what route that one tends to go down in the end. We'll move on to Wonderful Tonight. In there at 12-1. Was 25-1 the last time we spoke. I think it's fair to say that this is a very ground-dependent horse. We've seen convincing wins on soft ground in a couple of Group 2s before kind of getting stuffed by snowfall on better ground. So, where do you stand with this one? I mean, surely it's a case of ground dependency.
Yeah, I mean, and you're likely to get the soft grounds that she devours in the first Sunday in October at Paris, but she's got no hope, if you ask me. Absolutely no hope at all. Wonderful tonight. She shouldn't have even ran at York last week. It was good to firm ground, although officially described as good. I was banging on all week that the going description at York was wide of the mark and was faster than officially described. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Wonderful tonight. I think she was workmanlike in boggy ground at Goodwood when she ran there. She was a non-runner on the day of the King George, and pretty impressive before that in the Hardwick Stakes at Royal Ascot, where I think she was put up as a winner by this Channel Pie man at the time. But yeah, I just don't think her form there is strong enough. She could actually potentially be better over further than a mile and a half. Yeah, wouldn't be for me. And at 12 to 1, I think she should be back at 25 to 1, which she was when we first spoke about the Arc a couple of months ago.
Just nipping back to Hurricane Lane, Lee Jones says he thinks it might end up at the Breeders' Cup. Thoughts on
that? Lee Jones would know much more about Breeders' Cup prospects than myself. He might well be right.
Happy to bow to your knowledge on that one then, Lee. On we go to St Mark's Basilica, and at 12 to 1 was 25 to 1 all the way back. When we last looked at the race, another one that's contracted in price, albeit still not towards the top of the market, but that could well be to do with the distance that he's more likely to run over. Probably wants a little bit of a shorter trip, I would suggest.
Yeah, I can't see him running. He's shown really quite good form over 10 furlongs this year. He would have been odds on for the Judgment last week if taking part. Would he have beat Mishrif? I guess we'll never know. We might find out later on this season if they rematch. Yeah, like Mishrif, St Mark's Basilica is more suited to 10 furlongs. And Connections have actually spoke up about St Mark's dropping down to a mile following his win in the 10 furlong Eclipse at Sandown. But I think that was more from a commercial stallion prospect, more than anything. But yeah, so the strong suggestion is that he's being trained for and is a hopeful runner in the Irish Champion. But like I say, currently recovering from injury. And yeah, I'm no vet, I'm no expert on that, but we're not sure how it goes. I mean, that's only about 15 days away. So yeah, good luck to him in his recovery. But I don't think he'll be running in the Arc. And even if he was, he wouldn't be winning because he won't stay.
Yeah, another one in 12 to 1 is Mishrif, which was actually a 9 to 1 chance last time we looked at the race. But already one of the highest rated horses in the world when we were last discussing this race. Been beaten behind St Mark's Basilica over a mile and 2 at Sandown, beaten in second by Adayar at Ascot, but very, very impressive at York. Where do you stand with Mishrif?
Another one that won't run, Pie Man. I think he should have ran last year. I would have possibly been proven wrong because since then, the especially a European mile and a half isn't his ideal trip. Although he has run over a mile and a half earlier this year. I mean, extremely versatile, different grounds, different continents, different trips. But he's I think the evidence and the decisions there, really, he should be a 10 furlong horse for the rest of this season. Should be running in the Champion Stakes at Ascot in October. That's the race for him. And as Lee might confirm in the chat, he probably would be an ideal candidate for a Breeders' Cup trip. But yeah, Mishrif, I mean, you wouldn't put it past him running, don't get me wrong. But I think he's better suited to 10 furlong races.
Yeah, and we're getting into the realms of more fanciful chances, but I think this one is fair to say will definitely run if health permitting. Chronogenesis in at 16 to 1. We did flag this up on our earlier arc look as a potential bit of value for the Japanese contenders, and since won a very decent looking Grade 1 in Japan by 2.5 lengths. Oisin Murphy jocked up for the ride. What do we make of this one?
Yeah, I think it's quite significantly. Oisin, I actually spoke to him in person at Sandown and asked him about a number of things, and he said that he's says that he's took the ride on this. I confirmed that exclusively to French racing correspondent Andrew Humphrey. He didn't believe me, and then approximately a month later, it was confirmed publicly that Oisin Murphy would ride this horse in the Arc. So yeah, nice to be providing the exclusives. Do you know what I mean, Pie Man?
I do.
But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I'll be no expert of the Japanese form, but as we spoke on the last video, this Chronogenesis was only a neck behind Mishrif in the Shima Classic at Maidan. I think that was strong form at the time. I still think that now, and we've seen what Mishrif has done since. Yeah, a real contender, a real kind of unknown left field contender if turning up, and that is the plan. This horse will probably run in the other Arc trial, which is the pre-4. So sorry, a day up will run in the Niel, which is for only 3-year-olds, but I think the 4 over the same course and distance is for 4-year-olds and over, and that's where Chronogenesis might end up. So yeah, an unknown quantity, particularly to someone like myself, but exciting nonetheless to have a Japanese contender in there. We'll have to improve on the form we've seen so far. She's got an RPR rating of 124. He's going to need at least another £6 or £7 to be getting involved in the Arc, but she may well do.
Yeah, and it won't be for a lack of trying, will it, for the Japanese runner? You know, they're desperate to land a blow in this race, and some hard luck stories over the years as well. So a fascinating runner, certainly. The only last one that I would definitely flag up for a mention would have to be Love, 7-1, and was banging the mix the last time we spoke about this race, all the way up to 20-1 now. Obviously won the Prince of Wales at Ascot shortly after that last video, but hasn't won at 2 tries at the top level since, and she's maybe been found out against her male counterparts, and she's another one that looks ground dependent, and I can't really see her running here, can you?
No, we said on our first video, didn't we, that she's ground dependent for fast ground and won't run, and I think that will happen. You know, some people are going to question her form, but she has finished, you know, since winning the first time up, which was a really, really good performance, admirable performance from the front, great ride in the Prince of Wales's. Maybe wasn't the best renewal of that race, but yeah, since then King George went off 13-85 and has gone off 11-4 in the Juddmonte, finished third in both of them, Pine Man. I don't think performed. I mean, look, the Juddmonte was a worse performance than the King George. Don't get me wrong, but I think even though she finished third in the King George, I think she ran to form. She was giving a bit of weight away to the winner against males for the first properly for the first time. I mean, given that the Prince of Wales is an open sex race, but she beat another filly into second that day. It was a race dominated by females. But yeah, I thought she ran to form in the King George. She was below par in the Juddmonte, but we've got to remember in the Juddmonte at York Pieman that Love was the second choice runner, if you like, because St Mark's Basilica couldn't go due to injury, so Love was like the reserve runner. Yeah, and she got put in her place, to be honest. Like I say, I don't think she'll run because of the ground, and her bubble has been somewhat burst this season, but that's not to say that she might not win another group race somewhere down the line, because I think she'll dance plenty of dancers between here and the end of the season, and then she'll be in the breeding sheds next year.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. That kind of summarises the market principles. If you are still in the chat with us, do let me know what you're backing for the Arc. We will be wrapping up shortly. Just before we just recap on where we're at and where we think the value is, I will just quickly ask, I mean, we're getting into the realms of not knowing whether any of these horses lower in the market will even turn up. But are there any that are worth flagging at huge prices, or do you think it's between the principles?
Well, Pie Man, we've been speaking for nigh on 20 minutes and we've not mentioned a French horse yet. Not bad to say it's the flagship event in French racing. So, yeah, we've mentioned the top 10 in the market there. And 11th in the market is a horse called Rabinar, who was a strong contender last year. I think she won the what they call the French Oaks last year and had half a decent chance in the Arc itself. I think she finished fourth. That's just a guess from me. But yeah, she returned in Group 2 action. I think it was over this weekend just gone. Maybe Hump will confirm in the chat. But yeah, she looked good in winning a Group 2 and will be looks potentially the leading French contender at this stage, but it is a sorry state of affairs to say we're having to go that far down in the market to find a French runner. But no, there's nothing completely left field, Pie Man. There was a couple I put up.
Rabihar from Lee Jones, I think that's about 25's chance. Probably just butchered that pronunciation as well.
Well, that was the one I was talking about, Pie Man, but just under a slightly different,
That's the one.
slightly different pronunciation. Yeah, Rabinart. So yeah, that would be up there from a French perspective, but it is, like I say, it is a sorry state of affairs.
Well,
Cheshire Academy is.
Lee does suggest that it's been running over the wrong trip all year, so that might be one to put in the notebook.
Yeah. Then there's another one I mentioned on our earlier video, Indigo Girl. I got that one wrong because she was absolutely terrible again at the weekend. Yeah, she was not good. Been running over the wrong trip, but she was 50-1 when I mentioned her. Cheshire Academy, possibly Pie Man, possibly Pop, but I'm in quite a good position because I'm on the Tanawa at 10-1, as I said, first time round, and yeah, I think that. That's, I'm happy with that bet. And then, as in preparation for this video, and I'll only ever be putting horses up that I backed, I've also backed a Dayar at 9-2. I think he's very solid at 9-2. There's an argument to be made that you don't need to be rushing into back a Dayar now because, if they all stand their ground, which hopefully they do, a Dayar might be a similar price this time in 6 weeks, to be honest with you. Assuming that he goes and wins his trial as he should, could well be a similar price anyway on the day. So it might not be worth the risk anti-post at the moment. But yeah, I like a Dayar at 9-2 if I had to have a bet right now.
You've just been backed up by Lee in the chat who says a Dayar for me. So they're two resounding votes for a Dayar there, and that sort of summarises our latest look at the Arc. I'm sure the next time we look at this will probably be around race week or a fortnight before, when we have a close to confirmed field. But it's certainly taking shape. Thanks for joining us on the chat. And if you have watched us live, if you're watching us retrospectively, do give us a little like and a comment. Do have a little look around the channel as well. We've got plenty more going on, including some videos with Mike Holden. The third part of that will be out in the coming days. First two already up if you haven't watched them already. We've got some darts content likely coming up with some majors on the horizon. And yeah, plenty more racing. We'll be back on Thursday with Mr. Stephen Derbyshire. He'll be joining us once again for our weekend racing preview. Hope you've enjoyed the stream. I've enjoyed your comments in the chat. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you again very soon.